Hi everybody, Mike here. This week I wanted to do a short video that would answer some of the questions that you asked me on our class poll. And I also want to talk a little bit about where we are in the class and where we're going in the next couple of weeks. So right now we're starting Kant this week. Kant is probably the most important of all the ethical philosophers. Many people are Kantian. By the end of the class and the end of this semester, you'll have some idea what I mean when I say that. And even if they're not Kantian, it's a very important aspect of our society. It's very similar to religious reasoning. Kant was a deeply religious character, and his ethics is almost like religious ethics if you took out the God, but left the strictness of the ethics. So that's where we are right now. Where we're going in the next couple weeks is next week we'll be doing virtue ethics. This is another one of the most famous ethical systems. This was largely created by Aristotle, and this is going way back. So we did Mill, who was in the 1800s, Kant, 1700s, and Aristotle is from ancient Greek period, way back in Plato and Socrates in Athens, and I'll talk a little bit about that when we do it. After Aristotle, the week following that, we're going to do a critique of traditional ethics. There are several main critiques of traditional ethics. My favorite is pragmatism. We probably won't get to that. But perhaps the most prominent and most famous critique is called care ethics. And this is a feminist critique of a largely male-created ethical systems that came before it. So that's where we're heading. Kant this week. We're doing virtue ethics next week. We're doing care ethics the week after that. And then I want you to start designing the class. I'll probably make a short poll, or maybe you could text me. I'm not sure how we're going to work it out yet. But I want you to decide on which topics you would like me to cover. We could do some contemporary topics, race, gender equality. We could do warfare. We could do science and ethics. We could do politics and ethics. There's any number of things that we can do. I prefer to keep it real, things that are actually happening in the world that actually matter to everyday life. So start thinking about it. And I'll probably ask you next week to firm up your ideas and report to me, but start thinking about it now. And finally, I'd like to answer a few of the questions you asked me on the class poll. So some of the simpler ones, I've probably taken 30 to 40 philosophy classes, depending on how I count them, for credit, at least 30 minimum. And probably closer to 40, not to mention French and English, history, some science classes, all that stuff I did as well. But 30 to 40 philosophy classes, which is a lot now that I think back on it. I'm a fanatical follower of the news. Every day I spend about an hour at least reading through world and local news. I really like to keep up. I think it's part of my job as an ethicist and a philosopher to know what the heck's going on in the world so that I can talk to students about it. My favorite areas of ethics to talk about are science, the environment, and questions surrounding equality. What I mean is that equality of race, equality of gender, equality of income, these types of things. So those are the main areas I like to think about. I really don't think there's such a thing as a haunted house. That's one of the reasons why I asked the question. I kind of ask it for fun, but also I think it's an interesting way to get at what people think about the world. More practically, one of the questions I was asked twice in there was, do I take late work? Well, the answer is, of course, I take late work up to a point. If it's the last week of the class and you want to give me something at the first week, maybe I wouldn't do that. But if it's a day or two or three or even a week late, I'm happy to do it within reason. To be fair to the rest of the class, I'll take off points on a sliding scale. If it's an hour late, I probably won't take anything off. If it's a day or two late, a little bit, and so forth and so on. So yes, I'm happy to take late work up until we get towards the end of the semester and it's too difficult to work in. But other than that, yes, I can take late work. Life happens, I know that. So yes. Someone asked about how did I end up going from being in the military, doing security police, to teaching ethics. That's a weird and long story. I don't want to bore you with my life. When I was a kid, I had a friend who was a tutor and became a friend, and he was a local professor. He was a philosophy professor at a local military school. And so that probably gave me the little nugget in my brain that later on, when I wanted to go back to school, led me to this. The short answer is I really want to change the world. When I say that, I'm not joking. I really think if you can take a little bit and a little bit and just change the world a little bit, and I can get you to change the world a little bit or see the world a little bit more clearly, then I've done something. So that's really how I ended up going from in early days being in the military, not really liking that, and then ending up where I am here. So remember to start thinking about where you want the class to go. We're doing Kant this week, virtue ethics, and then we're going to do care ethics. After that, I want you to start to think about what do you want to do. And probably I'll ask you next week to firm that up a little bit. And as always, if you want to contact me, texting is the easiest. Many of you have already done so. That's great. That works the fastest. You get a quick response, which is great in these online classes where it's hard to feel connected. And if you feel like you need a little bit of extra help, if you're having trouble with the reading, which sometimes happens, philosophy is very hard to read. If you're having trouble just getting the general concepts, or you just want to chat about philosophy or about ethics more specifically, some topic, I'm more than happy to set up a face-to-face on Skype. We could meet at Parkland. We could do Google Chat with 1 or 2 or 3 people. Anything you want to do, I'm happy to do it. And I'm pretty open as far as scheduling in the summer. So if you want to set that up, please just let me know, and I'm happy to work it out with you. And I'll make another short video next week, and see you then.